everyone. It's your girl Miracle Sins, and you're watching God, Sex, and Love. Tonight, we're going to be chatting with Miss Daisy Paige, a phenomenal lady who has gone through so many ups and downs and trials. But we're looking forward to learning more about her and her book. So stay tuned.
That I'm not the type of girl that goes around and fools around. Think I'm so done with that crazy part of my past. So don't get so bold to ask, cause I won't go there. So be aware, yeah. I'm good, but I bet you wish it I would.
Welcome back to God, Sex, and Love. I am here with the lovely Miss Daisy Paige. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine today, Miracle. Thank you so much for having me on your show to tell you about my book.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm very excited to hear more about you and your book. So go ahead and tell us where you are and a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in Anna, Texas. I have 3 grown children. My son is the youngest, and he will be 27 on the 14th, and he is in the military. He's stationed in Nebraska, so I don't get to see him that often. Then I have 2 daughters. They both live here in the town where I do, so at least I get to be with them and see them a little more. I was diagnosed with a rare terminal condition last year, and so my oldest daughter, she's my caretaker 4 days a week for a few hours, so I get to spend quite more time with her, and I like that. Gives my husband a break too, because I have to be cared for 24/7. So,
Okay.
but this is my hometown, and I have tried to move away several times, but every time I do, after 4.5 years, that's been the longest I've ever been able to get away. Some kind of tragedy or trauma always brings me back home. I guess it's where I feel most comfortable and safe with all my friends and family. So it is what it is.
I can understand that. I know I would say my mom's kind of like the same way in regards to, I don't know if she's ever lived outside of our town. Now that I think about it, and things like that. So it's just very interesting. And I guess on the flip side for me, I guess I'm like your son. I'm the one that's away in our family. I did go and live in Florida for about 5 years, and then I came back, fighting and kicking. Like I came back, and then but now I live in like the Atlanta area in Georgia. So I can understand, I guess, both sides of that conversation. But yeah, I definitely want to hear more about, as much as you want to share and everything like that. But you have all adult children. I was thinking that you were kind of young, just looking at you.
Oh, thank you. But no, my oldest daughter that watches me, she's 31. Then I have my younger daughter's going to be 28 soon. And then my baby, like I said, he's 27. So they're all grown.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I am excited. I know we're going to learn more about your book and everything like that. So please share a little bit about that. Is that behind you as well?
Yeah, this is the book cover. Actually, I have a book here too, so you can get a little closer view of it. And my daughter painted the cover, my youngest daughter.
Wow, beautiful artwork. I was just looking at that, and then you said that's amazing.
Yeah,
Multi-talented family.
it shares my journey, so to speak. Like, I've gone over hurdles, which is the barricade here, and then I've gone through windy roads and over rocky mountains. And then here's a broken bridge on this mountain that I finally made it across, and now I'm on my pathway to be up there with the Lord and Savior.
Oh,
And the book is forwarded by Kirk Cameron.
Okay, cool.
Do you know who that is, right?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't say that I know exactly that. But is he in movies?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
He did Growing Pains back in the 80s and 90s for 7 years. He was the sitcom on there, popular as Mike Seaver. And then he's done Fireproof and all the Left Behinds 1, 2, and 3 movies.
Okay, cool. So he's co-signed your book?
Yes, he did a beautiful forward for me. Well, what happened was he's the one that motivated me to write the book.
Wow.
I met him last October, and I'm in a wheelchair, so well, since I found out about my rare condition that I have, I was going to go to Vermont and see my best friend, and she caught COVID, so we had to put that trip off. And so we were driving by our home church, and my husband said on the marquee it said Kirk Cameron was coming. He said, "So since you can't go to Vermont, do you want to go see Kirk Cameron?" And I was like, "Do I? Of course I do." He was my celebrity heartthrob. I had his posters all over my room when I grew up, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he asked me to ask my mom if she wanted to go with me. So she said she would, and we got there and we had question and answer time before his event. And I was up in the front row in my wheelchair, and I raised my hand to ask him a question, and I put it down because I got kind of shy, you know, starstruck.
Yeah.
And then this man in the middle of the aisle, he raised his hand, and when Kurt said, "Yes, sir," he said, "That lady down on the end, she has a question for you." And I was like, "Oh, Lordy, put me on the spot here."
Yeah. Wow.
But first I told him, I said, "I had your posters all over my wall growing up when you were on Growing Pains.
Mhm.
And I wrote you a letter and asked you for your autograph, and I gave you 3 months. And you never wrote me back, so I tore all your posters down. You broke my heart."
No.
So I called him out. He says,
Oh my goodness.
"I am so sorry. I will make it up to you tonight." Well,
Mhm.
then it came time for pictures. And these men, one of them was the one that raised his hand. They came over and asked me they wanted me to if I wanted them to put my wheelchair on the stage for a picture. And I said, you don't have to do that. I was going to wait for him to get done and see if he could just come down and take one with me. They said, "No, we want to." So I said, "Okay." So they didn't let me go in front of them in the line. And I got to Kirk Cameron and I gave him this bracelet that said defeatmsa.org, which is what I have. And I asked him if he'd ever heard about it, and he said no. And I said, "Well, that's what I have, and it is terminal." And he said, "I'll have to do some research on that." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And then I told him I didn't want to take my picture in a wheelchair and asked him if he could help me stand up so I could take it. And he did. So I got I held on to him with the death grip, of course, you know,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't fall, but I had this teenage smile on my face, you know, in the picture.
Mhm.
And then after that event, we went outside for a campfire and had some Christian singing and a little more worship. And I asked the security guard if he could get him to come over and sign my ticket. And he said yes. So he came over to me and he asked me if he could pray for me. And
Mhm.
he got down on his knees and he held both my hands and he prayed for me. And then after that, I told him I had had a vision and God had came to me and he told me my time on earth was near, but I had to tell my story from the beginning first. And Kirk said, "Well, how do you plan on doing that?" I said, I don't know. I don't know how to even start to begin to tell the story." He said, "I think you should write a book." I said, "Well, I've only written a poem my whole life. I've never written anything more than that." And he goes, "Just pray about it. You can do it. And look, here's my email. Keep me updated where you are." The next day I went home. I prayed for God to give me words to write that book, and they just started flowing out. And I wrote every day for about 3 or 4 hours a day, you know, kind of in intervals.
Mhm.
And then I sent Kirk the manuscript when I was done in January 23rd. So that I met him in October and I was finished by January 23rd.
Oh, that's good.
It was fast.
Yeah.
And he sent me back a beautiful forward and I had it published by March 7th.
Wow, what an amazing story. Just that part alone. My goodness, that's amazing. Well, shout out to him. Shout out to those gentlemen that was there. And hey,
Yes,
like they say, things happen for a reason, right? You didn't need that autograph then. You was gonna get that personal touch, right? So
that's
look at
right.
what God did. That's
God put
amazing.
him in my path.
Wow, that is amazing.
And
To push you where you needed to be, literally,
exactly.
right?
And I had
Awesome.
asked my mom, I said, did you get a picture of him while he was, praying for me or while we were talking? And she said, no, I was holding the flashlight so he could see. Well, I found a picture of him kneeling down at my wheelchair on Facebook. I just happened to be I noticed this girl had been to like all of his events and I never do this. I was just going through her pictures and I was like, wait a minute. And I looked, I said, oh my gosh. And I showed my husband, he goes, that's you. And I said, I know. And so I screenshotted it and I took a messenger and I said, thank you for this picture. If you have any more or video, I would really appreciate it. The next day, her profile was just gone.
What?
Yes, it's like God knew I wanted that picture and he gave it to me and I got it.
You got it. That wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Oh Lord. All right. Look, yeah, these GSL guests that look, I done got let's see how many episodes now that I done boohooed in. At least 2 or 3. I don't know. You trying to come for me today? I don't know. That's amazing.
And
That
we
that
ha- we haven't even got started on my story yet.
I'm like, what is that? All right. Well, look, I'm strong. I'm strong for now. We're gonna see what happens. Wow, that is amazing. And look, God just sent an angel to get that picture. You got it. That's all you needed. All right,
He
man.
he sends many angels on earth to help us out. I'm a strong believer of that, and I've seen them many times throughout my life. Um, so
Yeah.
first of all, I found out that my stepmother was not my real mom when I was about 9. Before that, I was a really strong and devoted Christian at the age of 8. I participated in Bible drills and I already knew the Bible from the front to the back at the age of 8. I mean, I won second place in a Bible drill in the state of Texas. Learning about the Bible was my favorite thing to do. I love going to vacation Bible school and um, church camp, all that stuff was so fun to me.
Mhm.
And then at 9, I was at my grandmother's house and I saw this picture on the wall. And I said, Grandmother, who is that woman? Because I'd never met her. It was a big picture. And she said, nothing. She just ran out of the room. And I thought, well, that was strange. A couple minutes later, my mom and dad pulled up and my mom sat up on the hood of the car. My dad came in by himself. And I said, he sat me down and he said, your mom's gone to heaven to be with the angels. And I said, no, she's not. And I took off running outside to the car. And I grabbed my mom by the legs and I said, go in there and tell them that you're not dead because they think you're dead. And so she walked me in the house and they told me, they said, Jolie's your stepmom. The woman in the picture, she's the one that gave birth to you. You were just a baby when she died in a car accident.
Oh,
So, and my dad and her were fighting when she died. So he always had a motto, never leave the house mad,
wow.
never go to bed angry, and that was why.
Wow.
But after that, my brother began to molest me, and he punished me. Emotionally, he said, if I would have never been born, that he would still have his mom. And since I was the reason that she died, he was going to be mean to me from now on. And the reason is because I was sick for about 6.5 months, 6.5 weeks. I was in the hospital with pneumonia and nearly died as a baby. And
Mm,
so mom, she didn't leave the hospital. She stayed at the hospital for 6.5 weeks and she, took off work and we got behind on bills and daddy had asked her to go back to work, because when I got out of the hospital, she said, no, I want to stay home with my baby.
mm,
And so the day that she went back to work, she went out the door saying, "This is gonna be my last trip," because she escorted like oversized loads. And she said, "After this trip, I can't do it. I'm staying at home with my baby." And that was the day that she was killed by an 18-wheeler. So,
Wow.
and she didn't even tell him bye. She just left. She was angry. So they,
Yeah.
but my brother molested me for 4.5 years until he moved out of the house. And then I got raped when I was 14. And then by another guy, I got laced with PCP and LSD. Because he asked me out and I turned him down along with about 8 or 9 other girls in the school.
Mhm.
Well, my father was a police officer, so he was on scene, and they finally figured out what was going on because they couldn't find out why we were like passing out and having these delirious spells. One night, and this is funny now, but it wasn't back then. I was in the marching band, and it was a halftime show. And when we did a right face, I looked back and I saw the band behind me, but they looked like an army and their instruments looked like weapons and they were gonna kill me. They were after me. So I took off running off the football field with my baritone, ran through the parking lot, across the street, and got into these bushes in this lady's yard. And she called the police. She said, "There's somebody in my bushes with something shiny." Well, my dad is the one that got called out on the scene. So he came out there and he found out that it was me. And he, took off and took me to the hospital and because he knew something wasn't right with me. And they did a spinal tap that night and they found the LSD and the PCP in my system at high levels. They said it was amazing that I made it through as high as, levels were. And he had already been to some other girl's house that had been doing the same thing as me and said that we were our spells like were exactly the same. He said that we would wake up, not know where we were. I wouldn't know who my dad was. I would just be in a delirious state until I would black back out and then I'd wake up and then I would be where I am physically. But they found out that we all went to this store and that we all were asked out by this guy and he worked there. Well, back then you could smoke at any age, you could buy cigarettes if you were like 5 years old, you could go in the store and buy a pack of cigarettes. So we all pretty much all of us smoked or he would inject it into our favorite candies or stuff. And they would see pinholes all throughout the cigarette pack where he was injecting and the cigarettes would have little black dots where they had been injected. So we were smoking this PCP and LSD. So they raided him and during the raid he pulled a gun on a police officer, so he was shot and killed. And my dad was on the scene, so when he came home and he told me, I lost it. I was like, this is life. I'm expecting nothing but pain, in my life. So I tried to commit suicide. And he took me to the hospital and I went to a mental health center. And the therapist had a session with him, me, and my brother after I had told her about the molestation. And I told him about the rape first. And my brother stood up and he said, "Who is it? I'm going to go kick his butt." And I said, "Boy, you done it longer and worse. So you ain't got no reason to go." And my dad didn't believe it. So I had to live with that disbelief for so long. Yeah. Well, I guess it was something, he just denied because it's his son and this is his daughter, and he couldn't fathom the idea that his son would do something like that to his daughter.
Yeah.
And I really just, after that, there was a big gap in mine and my dad's relationship. I didn't know that he did not tell my stepmom about it at all. So I thought she was just unsupportive too. And I just wanted out of that house, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, I got a good boyfriend at the time, and I thought he was too good for me and I didn't deserve him. So I broke it off with him. And then I ended up pregnant my junior year, summer. And after I had the baby, I moved out of my home, moved in with my dad, moved in with the baby's daddy and his family.
Mhm.
We ended up getting married and we were together for 12 years or 11 years, but we had two more kids. We had three kids, but he was very abusive through the whole time. And now, finally, I'm happily married, been happily married for 12 years to somebody I've known since I was 5 years old. So he knows my life story and he helps me through this disorder. You know, I'm 100% reliable on him. So he has to take care of me every day and thankful for him. And there's a little more to the story, but I don't want to give it all away. But this is a rare terminal condition. Only 4 out of every 100,000 people in the US are diagnosed with this condition.
Mm.
So that's how rare it is. And I'm donating 10% of all of my proceeds from my book to a charity that's researching for a cure.
Mm.
And I'm also selling t-shirts on my Facebook page. They have the Fight, Hope, Cure MSA on the front with the purple ribbon because it's a purple ribbon that represents, you know, MSA. And on the back, I have my book cover with my website. So the shirt, if they buy the shirt, MSA gets proceeds from that. And then they get double proceeds if somebody buys my shirt from the website on the advertisement on the back of the shirt. They get even more proceeds. So it's probably not going to happen while I'm still alive, but I want them to be able to research it enough where they can find a cure. Because there is a clinical trial coming up, but my doctor said I'm too progressed to be able to participate in it.
Mm.
It shuts down your autonomic systems, you know, like your systems that you don't have to think about, like your breathing, your circulatory, digestive, urinary, things like that. So it's already working on my digestive, urinary, and respiratory and circulatory system. All of those already. I stand up. Sometimes my blood pressure is like 62/50. So that low where I pass out, you know.
Wow.
But I'm in the middle of writing another book.
Okay. That's good to hear. You want to give us a little sneak peek of what that's going to be about?
Sure, you know, that's just keeping me going by talking about my book and my story and sharing it to hoping to inspire others to know that they're never alone. There's always God.
Mhm.
He will bring you out of situations. You just have to watch for his signs and listen for his signals.
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes things happen to us because he's trying to get our attention. You know, we got off track.
Mhm.
But you're never alone. He never leaves you, and he never puts you through more than you can handle.
Mm.
Since this book has been published, I have been having dreams. It started out like 2 to 3 dreams a week about heaven, you know, just little glimpses of heaven. So this next book is going to be called Beyond the Gates of Heaven, or Beyond Heaven's Gates, sorry. And it just is a short story, but it's going to be about those dreams and those images, things that I've seen up there. And I know that they don't miss us when they're in heaven because they can come down here and visit us anytime they want to. You know, have you ever found something that you didn't know where it came from? You're like, this feels familiar, this looks familiar, but I don't know where did this come from?
Mhm.
Somebody from heaven brought that down to you, so let you know that they're thinking of you. In one of my dreams, there was malls, and we got to go shopping, and we could shop for our loved ones for free and come down and give them gifts. So I,
Mm.
I believe that, there when you find things like that, there's signs and signals from someone in heaven that's telling you that they love you and that they're with you all the time.
Mm. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Man, there's a lot to unpack in what you've already shared. I mean, um, and there are some things I'm kind of curious about, but at the end of the day, I feel like maybe it's probably more important for you to share like what did how did all of these things affect your relationship with God? Like because yeah, I could ask about like how things are going with your father and your brother and all these different things, but it's just like if you guys have worked through all of that, I hope and pray, however God has led you to work through all of that, I'm sure that's for you. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to share that stuff too, you can.
Yeah, well, I'll tell
I
you,
think definitely.
my father and I, we started speaking because, the babies, he loved his grandbabies, but he was murdered when he was 45. Yeah.
Oh man.
He was a police officer, a fireman, an EMT. He was very well known and a very upstanding citizen. He was running in an election before his death
Mhm.
for city councilman at large.
Okay.
And he was getting threatened phone calls because he was uncovering corrupt things that the mayor of 20 years had been doing with the city money and stuff, embezzling and things.
Mhm.
And they were trying to get a whole new um, unit of mayor, treasurer, secretary, and all that in there because all these people had been in it for so long and they were all involved
Mhm.
and better the city.
Mhm.
But he was killed a week before the election, so they
Mm.
couldn't take his name off the ballot, and he won the election as a dead man, first dead man on the ballot.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
was pretty big here.
Wow.
But
Girl, that's a whole look. That's a whole another conversation by itself. 'Cause I've been paying a little bit more attention to politics and all this stuff. Maybe in my adult life, now that I'm a mom and all this type of stuff, and I'm definitely hearing a lot more about things that's been going on since 2020, and it seems like a lot of things are corrupt, and so so yeah, who knows who did? Do they know who did it? Um.
we were having it investigated, and we started getting threatening phone calls telling us that we better leave it alone or for somebody else is going to get hurt or killed. And we would
Wow.
go to the police about it, and they put a tap on our phone. When they would do that, the phone calls would stop. We would get we would get them again after they took the tap off. So it was like somebody from the inside, knew what was going on.
I was look. I don't call myself a prophet liar or nothing like that, but I'm just
No,
that came with all my heart and mind about. But I think it's also again like the different things I've been exposed to. It does seem like there's a lot of inside corruption and whatnot. So
oh yeah,
and okay, well I'm glad that you all at least reconciled. It seems
yeah.
like
We
so.
had um I did finally there was no autopsy done on my father, so we had went through the new district attorney and
Mhm.
had him exhumed 3.5 years after his death. But the coffin wasn't sealed properly, and so it was waterlogged, and the autopsy came back inconclusive. But
Man.
every time, like he was found under a car, crushed under a car, and the jack didn't even fit under the car. Like it had to be jacked up with other jacks so that jack could go under it. And we took the car to a mechanic, and the mechanic had it up on the lift, and he was videoing it, saying, I can't find anything wrong with this car, but this scrape here, that's from the jack being kicked out from under that car. Well, within a week, that mechanic was shot and killed. It's like a movie, right?
It's look, there's something that's going on, definitely for sure. Like all right. People
Well,
playing around, but that's crazy. I'm
but
sorry you went to
I got scared for my family, having three little ones, and so I just backed out. Because after we had to meet Zoom, the phone calls really started back up, and I'm like, how did they even find my number? I've moved several times. And,
mm,
um,
wow.
my husband and I finally divorced, after 11 years, and I said, I'm going to get out here and try to change. I
Mhm.
joined the army of all things.
Wow.
And I didn't make it because I busted my knee out in basic training 2 weeks before graduation. But I met someone in physical therapy and we talked about Christianity and religion, and we just got really close and kind of clicked, talking about these things. And I moved up, he lived in upstate New York, and I went to visit him when we both got out of physical therapy. And we were just friends, no relationship was ever pursued until the day before I was to leave to go back home. And he said, I don't want you to go. I really enjoyed your visit, and I think that we could really make a great go of things. So for 4.5 years,
Hmm.
I lived up there in New York State with my children, and everything was great. He never laid a hand on me. And one night before, um, well, back in 2007, we got in an argument about our dogs of all things. Just a simple, stupid little argument. He hit me over the head with a ceramic bowl,
What?
and yeah, I fought unconsciousness until my best friend that I had met up there came to my house. When she got there, I just blacked out because I knew my kids were going to be okay because she was there.
Hmm.
I woke up in the hospital 2 days later, and she told me that I had a fractured skull and I was leaking cerebellum fluid from my brain, and
Mm.
that I almost didn't make it. And took me, I was in the hospital for about a month. And my kids, I asked her, where are they? They were staying with our preacher's family, so they were okay. It took me almost 2 months to get back home. The victims advocacy, they had to get everything together, line everything up. But the church flew my two younger kids home to their grandma for Thanksgiving.
Mm.
And his mom bailed him out of jail, so I developed PTSD, always watching over my shoulder.
Mhm.
Um, they were charging him for attempted murder, but he took a plea deal for aggravated assault and only did a year in prison. But that's when I came home again and got with my husband that I'm with now shortly after that, about a month or so after that, because we had already known each other. In high school, I asked him to say Hawkins dance. He told me no. And then when we got divorced in 2000, he asked me out, and I told him no. I said, you had your chance in high school, and you said no. So
Mm.
he took me to the grocery store, and his mom was in line in front of us, and then she goes to the cashier, don't they make a cute couple? And I said, Trish, we're not a couple. She goes, but one of these days you're going to be because
Mm.
mom knows best. So when we got together, she was so happy and blessed. She said, he waited for you all these years. He's always loved you.
Oh.
And he's such a great gentleman. But I know I had my times when I doubted God, because why would I go through all these things if I'm such a devoted Christian? And now I know, Miracle, it was because I had to be strong enough to face this disorder because it's tough. It's very painful. And you get like Charlie horses in your neck sometimes, and they don't stop when they start up. So you can imagine a Charlie horse is very painful, and to have those in your neck and in your back is it's very painful. And I get Botox injections in my neck every 3 months now, and that stops it. but I still have back pain and neuropathy now, so it's very painful.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think I'd be strong enough if I wouldn't have went through the things that I did in my life. And God prepared me for it. And He's preparing my home for me now in heaven, and I'll be there to see all those people that I got to have a homecoming feast with in one of those visions.
Wow.
And I can't wait. I mean, I'm not gonna miss my kids because I can come visit with them, but they have loved ones here still, and they're gonna be fine. They lost their dad, but and now they're gonna lose their mom. But I didn't have my dad, and I didn't have my mom, and I made it. So if they'll just have faith, I know they can too. And they'll have my husband now because he's helped raise them from their teenage years. So they're gonna be fine, and they have each other.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm glad to hear about this beautiful outcome that you were experiencing now. I'm glad that you know you're walking in your purpose, writing these books. I'm sure, I mean, I'm sure you might be up to some other things. Is some other things you got going on outside of the books as well?
No, just physical therapy and, just trying to keep some mobility. I'm now in a hospital bed and
Mm,
I'm on palliative care. Next step will be hospice. So I'm going to keep sharing my story because I know that God wants me to do this work and my job's not through yet.
mhm,
So once I've done my job, my. Will be over. People
mhm,
pray for healing and it and sometimes like my husband, he don't have faith anymore. He's lost his faith because his mom died in 2016 and now I have this issue.
mm,
But he said because he prayed for his mom's healing and she died. I said, honey, God answered that prayer. She got healed. She got eternal healing.
mm,
She's in no pain anymore. And
mm,
that's what's going to be with me. I'm not going to be in pain either. I'm at peace with it. And I just wish you would be too.
yes,
But I've been seeing a Christian therapist for 5 years. And she's already said if he ever needs to talk to me before or after, I'm here for him too. And your children.
mm,
Just let them all know that they can come talk to me at any time.
right. Wow. I,
And I
I,
didn't write the book out of self-pity. I wrote the book because I want to inspire others to know they're not alone in their circumstances
mhm,
and that they can always count on God no matter what, like I told you before.
mhm.
So
Yes, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I think at the end of the day, that message is so powerful because again, we sometimes we go through things, and obviously sometimes people go through less things than what you've been through in your life, and we think that everything is over, that's it, and because we make those molehills into mountains, as they say, and so for you to have gone through everything that you've gone through and can still have this joy and your faith and you know, and to be out here even motivating other people through your book and through your messages going, visiting podcasts and things like that that you're doing now. Again, I thank God for you. I'm thank God that, I was able to, you know, hear your story firsthand and that, we've met now and all these things. And so, if there's anything that you would like to you know, I guess leave us with or let us know, whether it's your children or just us as the audience, whatever the case is, like at the end of the day, like what would that thing be that you want just if people didn't hear anything else that you said, I want you guys to hear this. What would that
I want you to hear two things. I wrote a poem that was published 20 years ago. I want to read it in my book too. And then I'd like to read Kirk Cameron's forward. It is beautiful and heart wrenching
be?
and just bittersweet. But I first want to read this poem because it will show you what kind of writer, I guess, so to speak. And it also kind of gives hope, faith to my story, you know.
Mhm.
So it's called Eternal Love. Endless days, sleepless nights. as we go through our constant fights, do we really get what we see, or is it totally up to me? Struggling through our trying times, burdened by the price of crimes. Truly, as each day ends, know that God's your only friend. As footprints in the sand did say, He carries you all the way. Know this, for it is up to you. He already knows what you should do. Find your faith from heaven above, then you will have eternal love.
Look. I'm gonna do the snaps for the poems. That's what we do for poems. That's beautiful. Yes.
Are you ready to get the tissues?
Oh God. Oh Lord. I just have to let them free flow.
I still, he wrote this for me in January,
Mhm.
but I still, every time I read this, it brings tears to my eyes because it's just so heart-wrenching. But here we go. It was an autumn night in Texas when I first met Daisy. She came up in a wheelchair next to me at the campfire. Her smile was bright. She shared her journey with me and told me she did not have much time left on earth. I told her to write down her story and I would do anything I could to help share her story with the world. I only spoke with her briefly that night, but her attitude and resilient spirit inspired me. I hope this book of an individual's incredible journey through emotional, physical, and spiritual pain and coming through the other side of tragedy, still praising the Lord, will encourage you in your present situation. Daisy's message will bring you comfort and remind you that you are not alone in your struggles or life circumstances. I pray her words bring you hope. There is one who knows the plans he has for you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Kirk Cameron.
Hey, shout out to Mr. Kirk Cameron.
Isn't
Shout out
that
to you, Miss
beautiful?
Paige. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's just, I mean, and hopefully that was just some more confirmation for you that at the end of the day, um, it's just amazing how God just orchestrates every little thing, you know, and how it all just comes together into this beautiful, yes, your story, but then just a beautiful picture overall, And so, like I said, I'm blessed to have been talking to you tonight. See, you trying to do it, so I'm trying to trying to hold on. But I'm blessed to talk to you tonight. I'm blessed to, have you on here. I know I say this all the time, especially when I talk to people on the show. I just be like, because it amazes me what God is doing with this thing, and then to think like, because I started it in 2020, and to think that all of this was going to happen, and that ultimately that today we would be having this conversation, and all these different things where it's just like it's just beautiful to witness. And so again, well, tell us, how can we find you, right? So how can we find you and your book and everything like that?
If you go on Facebook to Daisy Paige Unexpected Moments, you can find me at Daisy Paige, author, or that's the one. And I'm on Instagram, Daisy Paige 322. The link to my book is so long. So you can go on my Facebook page. I have the link, or I think I might have sent it to you. If I didn't, I will send it to you. And I also have a website, unexpected-moments.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Miss Daisy. Is there anything else you would like to share?
No, just don't take life for granted. You never know one day to the next what's going to happen. You have family, friends, go visit them and see them. You never know. They may be gone in a moment, you know. I took my life for granted. I was able to do 11 flights of stairs in like 3 times a day. I was in such good health and now I can't even walk. So don't take doing your basic daily necessities like bathing and going to the bathroom, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, things like that for granted. Every day when you can do those things, just say, thank you, Lord. Because now that I can't, I wish I would have thanked him for that daily.
Mm.
So I think, be grateful for what you can do and what you have on a daily basis. And remember who provides it for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Daisy Paige, man, bringing all the wisdom, I don't even know what else to say, Miss Daisy. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Mary.
Miracle Sam's, let's go. No, I'm good, but I bet you wishing I would have a one night affair. But I won't go where you wish I could. 'Cause right now you're looking so good. That's right. But is it worth the chance? If you were more than a fan. No, if you see what I'm about.
Thank you so much for watching God, Sex, and Love. And thank you to Miss Daisy Paige for joining us tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed the conversation. Be sure to check out her book and all of her endeavors. And thank you so much, Miss Daisy, for sharing your life with us. And friends, I hope that you all do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good night.